visits during the month of October. This is the highest monthly attendance on record. They also had 40 new enrollments. During the month, PAL partnered with Park University to host its first ever eSports tournament. The university's eSports team allowed the kids to use their state-of-the-art gaming equipment for the tournament, which was a great success. And the PAL baseball team ended the fall season with an undefeated record. And over 30 boys participated in the PAL October Boys Night Out event, where the group had the opportunity to take a behind-the-scenes tour at Arrowhead Stadium. Each month, the K-9 section does amazing work, and this was especially true in October for K-9 Rocks. K-9 Rocks assisted gang detectives and TRT on a drug sniff of a vehicle where he located pills, paraphernalia, and ultimately assisted in the arrest of a felon in possession of a firearm. K-9 Rocks also helped apprehend an aggravated assault suspect in the area of I-70 in Jackson, and he assisted with the apprehension of an aggravated DV assault suspect in the area of 76 in Monroe, and another aggravated assault suspect at 39th and Norledge. He located 13 grams of crack cocaine and a gun in the area of 40th in Pennsylvania. And on another call for service, K-9 Rocks assisted with a surrounding call out involving a homicide suspect. And lastly, conducted an article search and located a firearm, magazine, and ammunition. So needless to say, Rocks did an outstanding job that month, but his handler, Daniel Bartlett, also deserves equal share of the credit. Response times. The median response time for Priority 1 calls for service during the month of October was 9 minutes and 1 second. That's a 5-second increase compared to September. The median response time for Priority 2 calls was 11 minutes and 51 seconds, which is a 13-second decrease compared to September. Traffic report. As a whole, the department issued 5,703 traffic citations during the reporting period. That's almost 400 more tickets compared to the previous month. And the unit mostly responsible for that increase is our parking control section. They wrote over 50% more tickets in October than they did in September. And many of these were written in areas where people have called in parking complaints or in conjunction with Public Works cleanup initiatives. I want to recognize all of the PCOs for their efforts and especially thank Supervisors Rachel Hakes and Jackie Donovan for their leadership. From January 1 to October 31, there were a total of 15,753 crashes citywide. That's about a 6% decrease from the same period last year. There were 7 fatal crashes during the month of October, including a double fatality accident. And there was an additional death that was a result of a crash that occurred in the previous month. From January 1 to October 31, there were 71 fatal crashes with a total of 80 deaths. That's a 2% decrease in the number of deaths compared to the same period last year. And finally, I would like to report on another sideshow enforcement operation we conducted during the reporting period. On October 27, KCPD, along with Missouri State Highway Patrol, Clay County Sheriff's Office, and the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department conducted a sideshow enforcement operation focusing on several locations in the metro area. And as Prosecutor-elect Johnson stated earlier, the operation resulted in 16 spectator citations, 4 city arrests, 10 vehicles towed, 32 stop stick deployments, 1 recovered stolen auto, and 1 firearm recovered. And it should be noted that during the operation, a Kansas City, Kansas undercover police vehicle was struck by gunfire. The detectives inside the vehicles were surveilling a sideshow at the time. Fortunately, they were uninjured, and there's no indication that they were specifically targeted during the event. However, this illustrates just how dangerous some of these events are. That concludes my report. I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
I just want to commend Patrol Division for their work. You know you're doing well when you start to get complaints that are the exact opposite of what you would have expected. And as you probably know, Deputy Chief, at 31st and Prospect, there were some who told us, okay, you're doing too much policing now. You've responded so well that we're seeing a lot. And I don't know if those people were being fully serious, but they were noting the fact that the presence has been so exceptional, up from what were challenges before. And I'd like to note, Chief and I were out there in August, if I recall. People had real issues. I think we've responded and come up with real answers to support an important corridor and business area of our city. So thank you for that. I also appreciate the detail on sideshow operations. I know that that is something that continues to get much frustration from the people of Kansas City. However, your note, particularly that note about the police vehicle that was hit from Kansas City, Kansas, does remind us it's not necessarily, and if we wish it were, as easy as just driving one patrol car in and everybody just, first of all, there's a problem with everybody just fleeing anyway and speeding off. But it's not as easy as something quite like that. And so I appreciate that we continue to address those issues, but will note for everyone that it is something that takes a good deal more work than perhaps what might otherwise be known.
That was going to be my comment. I was able to participate in one of those operations and understand and appreciate the amount of resources necessary to make that effective and safe. And part of me was thinking, how do we scale this to be able to more rapidly get into areas where these sideshows are happening? But after experiencing it, it really takes a significant amount of resources, and people are in harm's way trying to stop this. So I appreciate your comments and the efforts that we're making.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief, tell us again, where is that East Side Can Center?
3017 Prospect. And to the mayor's point, I hope that acts as a force multiplier in the area to help with the issues we have, not just at 31st, but from 27th really to 35th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and great work to all those officers. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, Administrative Bureau, Deputy Chief Ortiz.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, good morning. My information is under tab C in your books. Today, I will talk about department strength, recruitment activities, and wellness initiatives. First, let's discuss department strength, and you already heard some of these numbers from our Chief of Police. As of October 31st, our law enforcement personnel was 1,105. We also had 32 police officer candidates and 527 professional staff members. These 32 police officer candidates, 17 of them are going to graduate in January and 15 in April. Regarding our law enforcement hiring efforts, we have 44 candidates undergoing the eligibility process, alongside 17 that are job pending candidates, and 3 that are already hired in our police department to start the police academy, the 184th Police Academy, on January 27th, 2025. In addition, we had 13 laterals at different stages of the hiring process. So we feel that there's a little bit of momentum going on, and we want to continue that momentum. As far as our communications unit, we hired 4 new members, and 9 members are currently in the eligibility process. Now let's discuss our recruitment activities. Our last law enforcement testing session for the year is scheduled for December 11th at our Regional Police Academy. And just last week, on November 14th, we had 31 candidates successfully completing the physical agility test. These candidates are now moving on to the next stage of the hiring process. We encourage those watching to participate, to take the first step and join our KCPD team. Next, I would like to highlight a few of our numerous recruitment events. I want to emphasize that our team is actively recruiting for different positions and fostering strong connections with high schools, community colleges, and universities. Just this month, Our team of recruiters went to several educational institutions, including Raytown High School, Winnetonka High School, Maple Woods Community College, Pittsburgh State University, KU, and many others. As you know, these partnerships are vital in informing students about our career opportunities. In addition to that, we're working with Deputy Chief Niemeyer about getting some free billboards that he knows some people that could help us with that. So we're working on that just to expand our resources that we have. Also, our employment unit, communications unit, and parking control unit presented careers for law enforcement and professional staff positions to the Women's Employment Network. All the ladies in attendance were specifically interested in the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. I am thankful to those who participated and put this program together, so thank you. Finally, I would like to discuss our wellness activities. Our wellness unit has been busy. In just 2 weeks, they made 106 contacts with our department members. They also brought foot, muscle, and joint soft tissue therapy to North Patrol Division for members to get a 15-minute massage for free. So we're thankful to those who participated, especially the ones for free. Yes. In conclusion, we cover our law enforcement strength, recruitment activities, and wellness initiatives. I encourage those watching to visit kcpd.org/careers today and take the first step in joining our team that is committed to provide services to our community. Unless you have any questions, that will be it for me.
Two very quick points. On one of the slides, your skyline picture excludes many of the great buildings that Mr. Whitaker's company has worked on, so we'll have to update with just a few more.
We'll make sure we got that
that's
next one, sir.
Another thing, and hold me to this, I'd like you to take food to as many of these college stops and other things that you can possible. You'd be surprised of the smell of pizza or barbecue at those tables.
Absolutely.
And so if you even need a little extra cash, he'll remember. Let us know. Got it. But just to make sure our table's always the most exciting and somebody's stopping by. But glad that you're out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Do you have more success, or is it hard to gauge at this stage, high school versus JUCO versus college in terms of recruitment?
I think our recruiters are building those relationships extremely well with all of them, and we're seeing some of these efforts now paying off. For example, the kids that are in high school, they're not going to be obviously being able to put in for police officers, but we're getting them at the doors with other positions, detention facility officers, parking control, and some other positions that we have seen some success. And of course, the community colleges have been huge in the efforts that we're having there. Those partnerships are paying off.
Deputy Chief, when you look at your numbers, I'm thinking about that. You said 32, and then I think you said 17 grad in January, 15 in April, or maybe vice versa. The 32, I know we must pull information on, did they come from our recruiting fairs, or did they just, are they people who always just wanted to be in law enforcement, or how do we look at the number of folks entering our academies and going through the testing, and how did they learn about us? Was it through our efforts, or was it just through interest?
I believe it's a combination of a few things. One, our efforts. We have our recruiters everywhere in high schools and colleges, and also other events. For example, we just went to an event at Matty Rhodes, and we had recruiters there. We had different recruiters in different places, but also our social media push and the fact that our salary has been increasing, that called the attention of many candidates, possible candidates that we have. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that. But I believe that is a combination of a few things. It will be hard to say just one.
I would
thing.
think we would track that. For example, the number of candidates in academy, the percentage of those that came through us through a recruiting touch.
I think one of the, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think one of the classes that we have in right now, there's two, what I refer to as legacy kids, where they are sons of retired police officers. I think we have 3 or 4 in that class that we had in our summer internship program. And then some are obviously by the recruiting efforts, or some that just have always wanted to be a police officer. They're answering the call. But yet, I see what you're talking about
Yeah.
metrics, and that's one of those, just me knowing that is some of what he reports to me in regard to what the makeup of each academy class.
I asked that as a follow-up to Commissioner Elder's question about the effectiveness of high school versus, community college and college. And if we had a sense of where our candidates actually came from, we could be more targeted in efforts in those particular areas. So, but thank you.
And one thing that we have with our recruiters too is that we have one of those QRs now, and we're gonna be able to track more about where some candidate is coming from. So we're gonna be able to track that more specifically from this point on.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Executive Service Bureau, Deputy McCollum.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. All items for the Executive Services Bureau are located under tab D of your board book. Item A, budget transfers for fiscal year 2024-25. I request the following appropriations be transferred within the general fund and police grants fund. The general fund transfer moves $1 million from personal services to contractual services. Police Grants Fund transfer moves $16,582 from personal services and $5,044 from capital outlay in the amounts of $17,826 to contractual services and $3,800 to commodities. The Police Grants Fund transfer adjusts appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2003 as the budget was being put together. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions?
I'll just make a note on this, and I'll make sure I'm reading it correctly. This includes $1 million in legal fees that will be transferred here.
Yes, sir.
So in the past at this board, and we used to have more robust discussions, as Commissioner Kramer will recall, we had discussion about proper assessment of what legal fees may be. I won't get in depth because that gets us to closed session as to what they might be covering, but once you get to that amount, you really want to see that during the appropriations process. I understand that things change throughout the year. That being said, I don't know what our total expenditure on legal fees is each year, but this would be a substantial percentage of it. And so, again, we can save for a different time because I don't want to foreshadow anything for others who are out there watching, but I would hope, and maybe it's been addressed in next year's budget, that we don't necessarily see that much of a material modification during the mid-year. That's all I'll have.
Any other questions or comments on that?
No, other than this is not coming, it's not coming from salaries, it's coming from a savings we've had in our health insurance. So we're not pulling from salaries as we had discussed last year and wanted to avoid. And we have had more than anticipated legal fees this year than in previous years. So that has contributed to this move. But to your point, Mr. Mayor, this is something we like to avoid and try to forecast. But unfortunately, we did not.
Move to approve the transfer.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll be opposed.
Ayes have it.
Item B, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2024-25. I request that $150,000 be appropriated from the unappropriated fund of the Special Services Fund for the 9mm firearms conversion project. The department is in the process of transitioning from the .40 caliber handgun to the 9mm. This will allow the department to purchase the firearms up front and give our sworn members the opportunity to transition now and process reimbursement later through payroll deduction. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions? So I did have a question on that. Are we getting more of a discount then to do it up front and now, or is it just that we want to get things out there?
Well, our T date to have the entire department transitioned is December 31st of 2026. It takes approximately 6 months to get these firearms in. And this particular firearm is not something that our members can just go and get. They only sell to law enforcement agencies. So we then purchase them, and then we seek reimbursement and collect taxes from the member once we do that purchase. So to your original question, I think because we do buy a large number like this, we do get a bit of a discount.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Deputy Chief, I have another question, and this is just for my learning. So you mentioned payroll reimbursement. So we purchase the firearm, the officer gets the, I will say, upgrade, and then what's the next step?
Well, so when a new recruit comes, let's just say that when a new recruit comes in, they get issued the firearm. When they graduate and get off of probation, then they start reimbursing the department for that firearm through payroll deduction. A current member, like myself, if I transition to that gun, I have two options. I can pay for it up front before I receive the firearm, or have it deducted out of payroll deduction, and then once it's satisfied, then I receive the firearm. So a little different. Our current members have to pay it off first before they're issued it, but of course, our new recruits need to have them to do the job. So does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I was just not aware of that. Madam President, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it.
Item C, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2024-25. The department anticipates receiving $30,000 donation from the Police Foundation of Kansas City for a service that will be contracted through our Health and Wellness section. Therefore, it is requested that $30,000 be appropriated from the unappropriated fund balance of the Special Services Fund to fund this program. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions?
Move to approve the transfer. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it.
Item D, renewal of bid number 2022-2, installation of law enforcement emergency equipment. On November 16th, 2021, the board approved a one-year contract to KCOM Incorporated for the installation of law enforcement emergency equipment with the option for 3 additional one-year periods. The original contract period was from December 1st, 2021 through November 30th, 2022, with 3 additional one-year periods. The department anticipates spending $325,920.23. The department has used KCOM since March 2008. This will be the final renewal period and will extend from December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions?
I move approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Item E, Audit Services, 2023-17. On July 25th, 2023, the board approved a one-year contract for professional audit services to Hood and Associates with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods. I recommend renewing the audit services contract with Hood and Associates for an anticipated expenditure of $87,900. This will be the first renewal with a contract period of February 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2026. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item F, RFP 2023-16, Banking Services. On July 25th, 2023, the board approved a one-year contract to United Missouri Bank for banking services with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods. The department is satisfied with the services provided by UMB, and I recommend renewing for an anticipated expenditure of $8,277.53. This will be the first renewal with a contract period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Madam President, I move approval.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Item G, GT Distributors firearm purchase. The department is in the process of transitioning from the .40 caliber handgun to the 9mm. This firearm is currently issued to recruits, and with the announcement of the mandatory transition, we have seen an increase in current members wishing to convert now. As previously stated in item B, this is a benefit to our members. The department purchases the firearm up front, and payroll deducts the reimbursement from the purchasing member. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval to purchase 175 Glock 9mm handguns from the department authorized distributor, GT Distributors, at an approximate cost of $146,314.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That completes my request, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Deputy Chief Young.
Yes, the department property policy was up for a 5-year review. It can be found under tab E. And to say that there were minor changes might be the understatement of the meeting. If there are no questions, I recommend approval.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Righty, thank you. Okay, Office of General Counsel.
Good morning, Commissioners. My action items are under tab F in your board book. I have 2 items for your consideration. The first is John D. Schroyer's appeal of the private officer licensing unit's denial of his application for an unarmed private security officer license. This was held over from last month. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, the private officer licensing unit recommends granting this appeal.
Any questions?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners. The second item for your consideration is Braden Proctor's appeal of the private officer licensing unit's denial of his application for an unarmed private security license. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, the POLU recommends denying this appeal.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I move to affirm the denial.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Office of Community Complaints. Merrill.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Good morning,
Morning.
Chief, Commanders. We have provided to you in advance copies of our monthly reports for October 2024, which are located underneath tab G in your electronic devices and board books. At this time, I'll provide you with the most significant highlights of OCC's activities. For the month of October 2024, the office received a total of 23 complaints, which compared to in comparison to October 2023, when the office received 30 complaints. Again, we need to explain that in 2024, we began and initiated the Category 0 designation. Category 0 are those complaints that do not involve members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. So in reality, of those 23 complaints, only 17 involved members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Because we just newly started this category designation, we're still trying to catch up because there is some lag time that occurs between, from year to year. So we expect going forward in 2025, we'll be able to give you a more realistic depiction of the complaint activity as it relates to member-involved complaints that come into the Office of Community Complaints. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to disaggregate the numbers that do not involve members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department for our statistical purposes. Year-to-date, OCC has received 295 complaints compared to 284 that were received during this same time period last year. For the months of August, September, and October, the OCC submitted for formal investigation 28 complaints that were received to the Internal Affairs Unit. These 28 complaints reflect a 27% decrease compared to the same time period last year when the Internal Affairs Unit received 52 complaints from the OCC. In keeping with the OCC's efforts to bring complaints to resolution, we handled 55 non-investigated complaints during the aforementioned time period, which represents a 14.6% increase from the same time period last year. The year-to-date statistics for complaints that have been investigated and reviewed are as follows. 94 recommendations rendered by OCC and fully investigated by the Internal Affairs Unit. The concurrences by the board and chief were on 24 not sustained recommendations, 24 exonerations, and 13 sustained recommendations. During this reporting period, there were 21 complaints that were terminated due to non-cooperation by the complainants and 12 that were administratively closed by the OCC. Currently, there are 3 investigative files pending review in the office. This ends my statistical report. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
All right. We're pleased to announce that the office has extended an offer to a candidate for the now vacant position of legal analyst, provided that the onboarding process through human resources and background checks, so on and so forth, are successful. We anticipate a start date in January of 2025. Also, we are still receiving applications and inquiries regarding the vacant administrative position and hope to have that position filled during the first quarter of 2025 as well. Also, legal analysts Diane Mazzucato and Tierra Watley will be attending the week-long CIT certification training at the beginning of next month. So we hope we know that'll be definitely a value add to the services that we're able to provide through the Office of Community Complaints. And now we'll have my colleague who I threw under the bus last month, Senior Legal Analyst Karen Williams, will come and give a recap from the recently held NACO convention in Arizona. You can tell she's so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Merrill said, I came back a little over a month ago from the 30th Annual NACOL Conference, which was held in Tucson. At that conference, which is about a 4.5-day training, there were 31 different plenary, concurrent, roundtable discussions, attendees of right at 600 people, which is phenomenal. When Merrill and I went to our first conferences back in 2008, there were maybe 150 people there, so it's really grown in those years. The topics ranged from things such as involving and engaging stakeholders, sharpening skills for oversight, expanding oversight's impact, thinking beyond traditional considerations, jail and prison oversight, that type of thing. So we talked about things like the importance of post boards, the importance of standardization of data, which I know we all have great interest in. Arbitration, the DOJ came and presented a panel on their civil rights investigations. And then, of course, we also talked about, as Merrill mentioned with CIT, alternative response models for dealing with those who have some behavioral health crisis. Next year will be the 31st conference. It will be October 26th to 30th in Minneapolis. Minneapolis was selected by the NACOL board because it will be 5 years since the George Floyd incident. And Minneapolis, as most of you probably know, is under a great deal of scrutiny, and hopefully will have some result to their consent decree going forward. Any questions?
Great report. Refresh my memory, NACO, what is that acronym?
NACOL stands for the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. So I've been involved with them. I was a board member for 8 years, from 2010 to 2018.
Thank you.
Great work, thank you.
And if anyone wants to attend next year, by all means, I would encourage you to come. So it's very eye-opening.
I might just say thank you for attending a number of community meetings. I know we've both been at them, and your presence there and explaining what OCC is and how it works and how the public can file a complaint if needed is so very helpful. So I just wanted to take this moment to thank you for your being there and participating.
And thank you for you as well for coming and explaining what the board does, because that's something that we try to do, but it always helps to hear it from the source.
Well, you do a better job at it than I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public comments.
I've been advised that there are none today.
Okay. Approval of the open session minutes for October 29, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Is it a roll call aye? No? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And David,
Nothing at this time.
Mayor Lucas?
A few things I want to note. I greatly appreciated the recruiting discussion and presentation. I think that's helpful for folks to understand the work that we are doing. I don't usually mention folks who have left from the department, but I wanted to acknowledge two majors who were exceptional folks to work with. Major Gates left us some months ago. I failed to recognize it at the time. He was a wonderful community voice and person to work with, and we wish him well in Platte County. I've met the sheriff-elect up there and advised him to not take too many more of our officers, hopefully, but wish him well as well. And then Major Dave Jackson, who I understand has taken a chief position in Colorado. We've talked a few times, referenced 2020. He was working in the communications unit at that time. Quite a bit of pressure in that job. I think he handled it well, understanding the balance between conveying law enforcement information while listening to the public, so I wish them both well. Another one, and I usually don't talk about folks' personal predicaments, but he put it on Facebook, just wishing well to retired Sergeant Brad Lemon. I know he has actually seems to be doing quite well, given the challenges he's faced, and so we're thinking about him and all of that. A few things that I wanted to note. There was an issue with a individual in Kansas City who lost their life following a canine attack. Some have incorrectly noted, and I don't blame them for this necessarily, but assigned some fault to KCPD. It is not in that division. It's the Kansas City Pet Project. City Hall is working with ways to ensure that we don't see something like that again and that we're addressing these issues. I will note, though, as a policy matter, there are some who would wish to outsource all facets of government, from law enforcement to everything under the sun. This is one place where I think the city did it, and I think I would encourage my colleagues to reevaluate that long-term in terms of what we're doing. Not your issue to resolve, just one that people might be interested in broadly in the public safety space. I'll also encourage this department, and I know with our lobbying team in Jeff City and elsewhere, we find ourselves at an interesting moment. We will be likely to get a new United States attorney. We will have a new governor, a new prosecutor in one of our counties, a number of other folks that we have the chance to build good relationships with. Commissioner Kramer, I thank you for I didn't even know it's been that long already, but your years of service in helping everyone collaborate. I think the chief has been very mindful of that, and I look forward to, as we go forward, if there are flaws of the past that perhaps we've had, is that sometimes when we all go our own way, it creates further challenges for the public, regardless of who's right or wrong. It seems that we all lose. I commend those of you, particularly our women leaders here, obviously, who have gotten us in a direction of collaboration, and I think that bodes well for our next year ahead. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Elders.
No comments at this time.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Just real quickly, Chief, thanks for the continued focus on staffing. I know that we talk about it almost every month, and it seems like we are turning the corner. And just a reaction, I couldn't agree more. The monetary part of that is so helpful, but it's really the culture that keeps people in place and knowing that they're valued with what they're providing, both internally and externally. So I think just not losing sight of that and appreciate you focused on it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, and I'll just follow up on the mayor's comments and Commissioner Whitaker's comments. Very grateful, very thankful for all the hard work you guys do and all the collaboration, because it is really working and everybody appreciates it. So thank you, keep up the good work, and everybody have a happy, safe Thanksgiving and holiday season. Thank you.